the albums we ranked 20th down to 11. This is 5 to 9's Album of the Month, Album of the Year episode, part 1. I'm Andrew Belt, editor of the 5 to 9 blog, and joining me for this end of year roundup are my much valued podcast pals, Karl Blakesley of New Music Central and Kiley Larsen, the founder of Santa Fe record label Mañana Records. Before we begin our rundown, we'll run through a few reflections. So just to kick off, 2024, good year for music? What would you say? We'll go with you, Karl.
Yeah, I honestly think it's been an excellent year for music. I was just revisiting last year's list that I kind of made, which I thought at the time was a great list, but comparing it to this year, I think this one has been certainly since 2022 was quite a good year. It's probably been my favorite since 2019, which was like the last really exceptional year, I'd say. So yeah, great new music, and definitely one of those when whittling down my album of the year, there was a few grueling omissions, I would say, which is always a sign of a strong year. So yeah, I think it's been.
What
really
about you, Kiley? What do you?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty solid year. I would say maybe it's just because I haven't had as much time as the last couple of years to really dig in every week into all the new releases. I'd say it's maybe a step down for me from the last few years, but yeah, there's been awesome stuff, and just have to say too, label wise, I think it's been an excellent year. Put out some really fun stuff with Strange Magic and Alex McMahon, and then set up the singles for Free Range Buddhas and Tenvis next year. Some fun stuff coming out early next year. So yeah, I'm happy with things.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what's next off the production line of Mañana Records after some strong releases this year. I'm more on Karl's side. I would say 2024 for me, I think, probably the two most intense years for music for a while for me, and long may that continue. But looking at 2023 compared to this year, I think this year there's way more in that higher category. Maybe I'm just becoming more, I don't know, lenient in my marking, but this one was noticeably sort of more kind of records I would put in that kind of classic kind of category. So very strong. And then to look at the Album of the Month podcast in 2024, I'll ask a few questions on that. So which record are you most disappointed about not making the cut in our top 20? Kiley, what do you reckon for this one?
Yeah, I've got a few of them, but just going based off of my streaming minutes this year, it'd have to be Smashing Pumpkins' Agori Mori Mai, however you pronounce it. As we covered, that album just really surprised me, and then I was surprised even more when my year-end list came out, and they were in the top 5, and I think about half of the time listening to them was that new album. So I guess looking back at when it came out in May, I appreciate it even more than I thought I did. So it would have been nice to have that one on there.
So the first regret is shared with Billy Corgan. Karl, what about you?
Yeah, there was a few on our list that I think I definitely really liked, and you guys maybe not so much. So Everything, Swim Deep, Wonder Horse. I think that those were all up there for me in terms of how much I listened to them this year and stuff like that. But I'd say the one that probably sticks out is Owen's The Fall of Sue, because it just, given how highly we rated Lies last year, and how much, me and you, Kiley, both love Mike, it seems strange not having him in the final.
Yeah, that was on my regret short list as well.
And it just missed out as well by a point, so it wasn't far off. And I was far more of a fan of this project compared to Lies. But there we go. I mean, so there's one for Mike, and then my regret here is a band from Leeds who've had a very big 2024. So English Teacher, not one we actually covered in one of our conventional pods. We added a wildcard round with 5 records we selected to give another chance for someone to make the top 20. A few of those will actually be in this top 20 we run through. And yeah, English Teacher, This Could Be Texas, which currently is my album of the year. So that one has not made the top 20 and my disappointment from that regard. And then outside, we've listened to 60 via this podcast. So which do you wish had been part of the podcast this year? And Karl.
Yeah, so I mean, there's 2 that really stand out. I think the first one is Kneecap for their debut album Fine Art, came out in June. An album, again, that I've just played a lot this year. And I think, again, like they've just had such a massive year. They've literally gone from unknowns to festival headliners in the space of a year. They've even had a music biopic come out, which is now in Oscar contention. They reckon it might be up for Best Foreign Language Film. And it just won like a load of awards. So yeah, that definitely stands out for me in terms of not just the album itself, but the cultural significance of that album, and seeing what it's done for those guys. That would definitely be my pick, I'd say.
So one for Kneecap. Kiley, which record do you wish had been part of the roster this year?
I typically tend to skip the electronic nominations that I want to put in. And so 3 really quick that I have just loved that I wish would have been on the podcast. Kiosmos 2, which is just great ambient, down-tempo electronic music. Fred again, 10 Days. Listened to that album a whole bunch this year. And then his buddy Fortet with 3, which is my most listened to electronic album of the year. And I just think it's a really diverse record that, maybe would have done okay on the podcast if I had nominated it.
You just never know. Although I think we're getting a better sense of what will resonate well the more we do it. So Irish rap, electronic, and then for me, I suppose in terms of the poll, Hayley Hendricks, she missed out for November, and I've really been enjoying Seed of a Seed, her second album, just lovely folk music. But on reflection, and one which is really I've returned to and really enjoyed, and one which I think both you guys, or at least the artist you appreciate, is Naya Archives. Silence is Loud. So brought out an excellent EP last year. She did, again from the same region of the UK. Leeds, I think / Bradford, but just I don't know. I term her music emo jungle. Basically, it's I like that mix. So yeah, Irish rap, emo jungle, and electronic. They were some of the genres to miss out on the pod this year. And before we get into the ones we loved the most, there were ones we didn't enjoy so much. So small moment to reflect on maybe albums which were a bit of a chore. Kiley, which was your least favourite out of those 60 we've run through this year?
I'll just quickly go with the 3 again. I think it's justified. I'd say the Rills that we just covered last month, Pale Waves, and then I hate to say my own nomination, Japandroids, just really did not care for that album.
There we go. Karl.
I can't believe you didn't mention Future Utopia. I mean,
I guess it's so forgettable that I left it out.
No, I mean, I would actually go for the Rills. Future Utopia is probably down there as well, but I know there's at least 1 or 2 that I thought were okay on that one, whereas with the Rills, it was just, like I said on the review, like just completely numb to that style of music now. So yeah, that was definitely the one that I struggled with. The time of year as well. I'm kind of...
Yeah. I know it's such a good month otherwise in my book. But I mean, the Rills pushed them close, but Future Utopia just pipped that most unwanted of accolades for me. So having reflected on the worst, let's get into the very best, or at least starting from 20. So we're going to run through from 20 to 11. And I've gone a bit too far down in my notes. So just as a little bit of how we've got there. So from the points accrued from the 11 album of the month episodes, plus the extra wildcard round, which we conducted privately, didn't do a podcast for, we had a league table of all 60 albums. And quite happily this year, it was a clean cut at the 20 mark. So if you got 11 points, you made it. And then with these 20, we kind of picked from them all. And it was 20 points for the top pick, down to 1 for the lowest. So maximum of 60, low of 3. And that's a very brief rundown of how we did it. So without further ado, in 20th place is Denzel Curry with 6 points. This one. So yeah, over to you, Kylie.
Yeah, I think when I nominated this one, I was excited to get it out there. Everything from Zoo through All My Eyes See Your Future. Just thought Denzel Curry's been on a great roll. And King of the Mischievous South, I think it was overall kind of hit or miss for me. And you know, when it came time to put together the final 20 here, it's just thinking about you know, the other hip hop projects this year. You know, Karl mentioned Kneecap, Tyler the Creator, and Kendrick coming out late here, and you know, Mike Eagle, my favorite guy, he had a side project, and there was some really good hip hop albums this year, and I just felt like you know, this doesn't fit in with the rest of the list necessarily, so kind of toss it at the back. And then B, you know, the projects I've listed, I just think there was more hip hop that I enjoyed this year. And from my experience with this album, I was just surprised it made the final 20.
May have reflected the quality of the month, I think, and that is sometimes where you get those. You know, some months we'd have liked to have pushed through 4 or whatever. But yeah, that's how it works, I'm afraid. So some albums very unfortunate based on the quality of what was also selected. But Denzel made it, and yeah, you made 20th place here. For all the next ones as well, I deferred. I actually gave the slightly larger score for that one. But for all the next ones, the person who gave the most points to the album will give the rundown. So in 19, we have Griff, and Sadness Sets Me Free, which was one of our albums from January. And Kylie, you gave the most points, so you got 16 overall. So you can see a fairly big leap from Denzel already.
Yeah, and yeah, this is a long time ago, January, and I think it really stood out in that month. Was feeling it at that time of year. You know, this is one that when it still comes on the shuffle, I'm enjoying the songs. But yeah, it's 20 albums, so really still enjoy this album. It's just at 19.
Yeah, and that is the thing. I think, you know, perhaps with the exception of Denzel, which we're a little bit not loving, maybe. I think all the others, you know, we've got a lot of praise to give. So moving on to 18 is John Grant with The Art of the Lie. So that was just 1 point more than Griff Reese's Sadness Sets Me Free. 17. And I gave the most points here. My first touch point with John Grant, a very deep and thoughtful record. I think it arrived in around June. So it's kind of a strange time. It might have fared better in these darker months with the kind of, deep kind of electronic odes and look backs to his childhood a lot here. But so much feeling in it that it was a great first listen of a John Grant album. And necessitates further exploration of his back catalogue. So really enjoyed that one. So on to 17, and we are flying through these. We have Washed Out with Notes from a Quiet Life, one of the selections for our wildcard round, on 23 points. So a bit of a leap from John Grant. This was one selected by Kiley for us to give a go-to, which we hadn't done through our first 11 episodes. So yeah, what's your kind of reflections on Notes from a Quiet Life?
Yeah, for me, longtime fan, and this was one of the surprises of the year for me. Hadn't loved any of his albums since Paracosm, which was over a decade ago. And I thought that Notes from a Quiet Life, he found his groove again, while continuing to grow a little bit. And I loved this album. And I have to say, I continue to be surprised how much Karl seems to not.
I did enjoy it. So
Yeah, that was a great discovery. Yeah, that's more my bag on the electronic scene. I also, one which didn't make it, Taicho, was also kind of there, perhaps more so than some of the more celebrated or well-known artists I found. But yeah, it was a great one for our wildcard round, and fully deserving of making the top 20. So that's the first of 3, all stuck on 23 points. And Karl's going to take the next 2. So I've said 17th for Washed Out, but essentially it's joint 15th. So our next joint 15th selection is One True Pairing. And again, you'll have to remind me of the name again, Karl, which is terrible considering we go on.
It's Endless Rain.
Endless Rain. We only reviewed this one last month or 2 months ago. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. So this was the sort of second half of the Wild Beast double that I chose for September, October. So obviously we have Hayden in September, Tom, the other half of Wild Beast, and or one of the other quarters, I should say, of Wild Beast in October. And yeah, it was an album that I think kind of split between the 3 of us. Me and Kylie thought it was pretty decent, whereas Andrew a bit more of a slog maybe to get through. But I think, yeah, it was one of those albums that I was unsure of at first. It was quite a dramatic shift from his previous outing. So yeah, going into that one, I think it was definitely one that took a little while to get to grips with, but it was also one that I just found myself kind of coming back to more and more. I think the time of the year that it came out, late October at the height of autumn, definitely worked in its favour for me. We had Laura Mall in that month, which was similar in terms of like the textures that were being presented, but I think the dark and the despair and the murkiness of Endless Rain maybe pulled me back in slightly more in that month. So yeah, I would, compared to his last outing, I would say I probably like them both the same. Very different albums, but yeah, I think it was one that definitely October, November I played an awful lot, and I'll probably continue to play it over the festive period as well.
We're going to stick with you. So yeah, our third album, which gained 23 points, was Yard Act with Where's My Utopia, and you gave the highest score here.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one that we, talking about surprises, this was one that really surprised me this year. I'd sort of written Yard Act off as, one of these post-punk bands that, as we talk about with the Rills and the oversaturation of the indie market, we're getting a bit of that, I'd say, with the post-punk at the moment. And yeah, I kind of thought Yard Act would maybe fall victim to that. But to their credit, they've completely, evolved their sonic boundaries on Where's My Utopia, elements of funk and some great kind of melodies, of pop melodies coming in. Some terrific singles on that record. We Make Hits, Dream Job, When the Laughter Stops, love all those tracks. Some great kind of guest features as well. And yeah, it was just one that I think we all really enjoyed when we reviewed it. And I can speak for myself now that I still have a lot of time for that record. Obviously, me and Kylie managed to see them during our meetup in October as well. That was a lot of fun to hear those songs live. And just a real big surprise from this year. And although I'd say it has fallen down for me compared to when we reviewed it back in March, I think there's other albums from that month that have kind of overtaken it now in terms of my standings. Still a great album that I've got a lot of time for.
So from 3 on 23, there's a small shift to 25 points now for 2 again. So a lot of varied voting went on when we were looking back, and we didn't really know how everything was going to land. But the first of our 2 on 25 is Du Blonde with Sniff More Gritty. This came out of our most recent monthly episode for November. And we actually, thanks Beth Jeanshausen for your comment on the video, which has just gone live on YouTube, where we were unsure about the meaning behind the name of Sniff More Gritty. And she just
Down.
should have known, yes. I think I was saying about how I looked it up in the Urban Dictionary and nothing came up. So I assumed it was something I was just not cool enough to understand. But it was a very niche reference to, a lyric about cocaine, I believe, and trying to make the sound of it really gritty. And she put the two together and obviously Sniff More Gritty. But one I also reviewed on the 5 to 9 blog. Artist I've followed since about, I think, 2017, the first time I went to End of the Road. And this is her 4th record now, and I think she just gets better and better. And really just enjoyed the kind of scuzzy, grungy sound she goes for, which is right up my street. And a lot of nice nuance as well. There's the one song where she almost sounds like Lana Del Rey and really is quite stripped back. She's got a very strong kind of singing voice, aside from the more kind of masculine type singing for the rock songs, which she does. And lots of nice production techniques, which I quite enjoyed. Found almost humorous at times, some of it, like the fly swatting. But yeah, some great collaborators on this record, as keeping up what she did with her last one, 2021's Homecoming. So the likes of Skin from Skunk and Nancy. You have the Future Heads and Maximo Park represented with Ross Millard and the Maximo Park singer, who's, again, I'm struggling tonight. I've come back from London, a day of work, so apologies.
Paul Smith.
That's why you guys are on here. With the actual knowledge. And then also one with Laura Jane Grace. So it's a really great, very snackable half-hour runtime, and one I really enjoyed this year. But also on 25 points was Joe Goddard. And Kylie, you gave the highest rating here. So run us through his record from, when was that? That was July's winner, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Joe Goddard, another, I don't know why I continue to be surprised, but, him and Alexis Taylor, Hot Chip members, Hot Chip itself and all their projects just continue to be just great. And, when Hot Chip was first gaining in popularity, and, they were kind of a meme band to me, I enjoyed them. But I would never have guessed that in 2024, I'm just continuing to praise all these amazing projects they put out. So Harmonix, great collaborations here. We've got, we covered a Bibio Sound Machine this year. We've got Hayden Thorpe, and I really like the Barry collaboration that opens this. But it plays out like a great mixtape, and I still need to go back and listen to the remix album that he's added to it. But last month, he even put out a Neptunes, another EP of great stuff. So I think 2024 has been very good for Joe Goddard and continues to just really impress me.
And now we move from that scrum of 5 albums all fighting for room. There's a 4-point gap to our next record, which comes in at 12. So Amyl and the Sniffers with Cartoon Darkness. So here I gave the most points out of the 3 of us. And again, my first entry point for an Amyl and the Sniffers record. Again, End of the Road was my touch point for hearing about them for the first time when they had their first album and were starting to make a name for themselves. And these, the years since, they've really grown in stature. Where this year, they're being talked about as one of the best rock bands going. We'll be supporting Fontaines DC on that show in London next year. So they're really, gaining a lot of exposure. And with Cartoon Darkness, it's visceral, but it's also quite tender in parts. And I think, if you want that kind of punk attitude in the modern day carried through, then you get that with them. Great vocal performance on here. And yeah, just one. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this, and so much variety on the album as well. And yeah, I could just go to it again and again. So a band definitely want to keep an eye on. I told you about my regret about missing them doing a secret set about 2 a.m. at End of the Road when I was not awake, still in my tent, and I could hear it all. And I was thinking, damn. There was a clash why I didn't see them during the day, as there tends to be quite a lot of those at that festival. But yeah, one of those bands who are very high up my list of who I would like to see. So and a great record. And already we get to for this first part of our 2-parter on our 20 top albums of 2024. We get to the end of this first section. So in 11th, just 2 points above Amyl, we have St. Vincent with All Born Screaming. And again, it's over to me. So there'll be less of me in the second part. But here, is Annie Clark going industrial. Again, first full album touch point. What I had heard of St. Vincent in the past hadn't quite resonated, being honest. And she did headline End of the Road a few years ago, and I wasn't wholly impressed. But I think I would be now. And this album, just drew me in with the singles, where like, there's elements of 9 Inch Nails and what's going on there. There's Dave Grohl behind a drum set, which arguably is his home on a stage, or on record. And just loved that kind of sound, which he's really kind of perfected, I think, on this album. And the first half really sticks to it, and then the second half is almost a complete move away from that quite intense feel, and veers into quite different genres, goes a little bit poppy, but no less intriguing, and actually sort of remnants of Caroline Polachek from last year and what she does on the back half of that record. So one which fully got me on board. Would really have liked to have seen her show at Royal Albert Hall in the middle of the year. I think that would have been superb, but hadn't quite got back into my gig-going genes following the addition to our family at that time. So, but all good now. So that's our 20 to 11. So, coming next, we'll be running through our top 10, where we will reveal our album of the year, following the footsteps of 2023 winners Young Fathers with their album Heavy Heavy. And as ever, you can stay up to date with what we're up to by following 5 to 9 on X and Instagram, New Music Central via @Karl Blakesley on Instagram and Threads, and Mama Mañana Records via @Mama Mañana Records on Instagram. Thanks for listening. Bye.